So, to those of you that are so far assembled, I'm Abe Pardee. I run Pardee Metals in Sparta, and I'm set up in Mary Lee's studio yesterday and today with my work, and so I'm just gonna do some blacksmithing for you all today.
Ooh.
So I'm just drawing this material out into a taper. Hot steel is just like clay. Anything you can do with a lump of clay, you can do with a bar of steel if you can heat it up. But it's a little stiffer, and you gotta put something between your hands and the material.
This is how we got the cliche by hook or by crook.
The crochet by hook or by...
Cliche.
Oh.
Cliche by hook or by crook.
I don't know if that has anything to do with blacksmithing, but I do like that cliche, or whatever.
Did you say your last
you would
name
call
was?
it.
You said your last name was what?
Pardee.
Pardee. Okay, I know. I've got a friend of mine whose last name something similar.
Pardue?
No, Pardini.
Pardini. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It's Italian cousin.
That's interesting. Yeah, Pardee and Pardue are of French origin.
Okay.
You had a
So I don't like sharp corners on things. So, which is another reason I don't like to make knives. So, I'll just knock those corners down.
Watch out, Poochie. Hot stuff is flying.
So this gray material that forms on the surface is iron oxide, kind of like rust. It's where the iron molecules have bonded to oxygen in the atmosphere because I've heated that material up so much that the molecular structure is expanded and allowed the air to penetrate its structure and bond with just a few of those iron molecules. So I scrub that off periodically to keep everything looking smooth and crisp. So I'm burning coal. This fire, if I keep putting air into it, you get up to around 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, at which point I just have a sparking puddle on the end of my stick. So I have to be careful not to run my mouth too long, or I will burn my steel and ruin what I'm doing. Now here's your hook and crook.
So is all of your work artistic, or do you do any work for any of the ranches or farms?
I don't get along with horses, not by my account, but they don't like me.
I see.
Historically, throughout my life, they've never shown me a whole lot of compassion or
Yeah?
interest, so I just steer clear of them. Frankly, anything that weighs more than 1,000 pounds and has a mind of its own, I like to give their distance. They can do their thing. I'm going to do my thing. But I certainly am not going to hammer nails into their feet. That's just me. I know a lot of farriers, and some of them are really talented blacksmiths, but there's a whole side of that that's very much medically and veterinarially oriented that I just is not something I care to pursue. So I focus on art and implements and furnishings and architecture and ornamental iron, sculpture. Everything else that's not knives and horses, pretty much.
The short answer is I'm a blacksmith, ma'am, not a farrier.
And that's with an E, F-E-R-R-I-E-R?
Pardon?
It's a farrier, F-E-R-R, or F-A?
F-A-R-R-E-R, but it comes from the root ferrare, which is Latin for iron. which is why Fe is the periodic symbol for iron. And when you refer to using iron-based metals, they're ferric metals, or ferrous. La la la, figure out what you're doing, Abe. So, this is the most ubiquitous technique in metalworking that you will ever see. And there's a reason. Because it is super easy. I don't even have to look at what I'm doing. I can just sing a song and twist, twist, twist. Ignore, ignore, ignore. Oh my goodness, it's so beautiful.
Excuse us. Pardon. Come on, pup.
And I'll just scrub off the fire scale that formed from that heat. Do a little straightening. And now I have a twist. Boy, that sure was easy. And you can even do it cold if you're really strong. That's why you see twists everywhere. I don't do a lot of twists in my own work because, I don't know, it happens occasionally. I do them occasionally. So, I make a lot of my own tools, partly because I'm a cheapskate, and morely because no one sells them in just the way, shape, and form that I like them. So, I have to make them. And, you know, most of these tools that I'm using are not really significantly different from tools that blacksmiths were using to probably 3,000 years ago. And I'm using a lot of the same techniques too. The material that I work is just slightly different. This is steel, not wrought iron, so its working characteristics are a little bit different. It has a contiguous homogeneous structure instead of a grain structure like wrought iron. And there's an example of a piece of wrought iron on one of the belt buckles in my display that you all can look at later that's got the grain etched away so it looks like wood. And it will split along the grain like wood does if you aren't nice to it. Whereas steel, you don't have that problem. But steel's stiffer, and wrought iron really likes to be forge welded to itself. Steel takes a little more attention and skill to forge weld, but it's still very forge weldable. So I don't need all this on this hook, so I'm just gonna whack it off. You're smart. You know exactly what's going on. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. Still can't be done anything with yet, so I gotta fix that. Oops, that's hot. So this is just a simple hand crank blower, some gears that increase the turn speed of my crank to much faster turn speed of the fan, pushes air up through this device with a wonderful French name, Tuer, and the air shoots up into the bottom of the cast iron fire pot that's in the middle of the forge here, and then just like with a candle, the more oxygen you give it, the brighter it burns, the hotter it burns. So that's how I'm controlling the temperature of this forge. If I didn't keep putting air into this, it would just smolder and eventually die. The fire, I mean. Isolating material. Spreading directionally. And now we have a leaf screw plate. Ba, 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 ba. Make sure that's straight. Yes, it is. Good job, May. But it still needs a hole to put a screw through, right? So I didn't bring my drill press today. So I'm just gonna have to use another ancient technique. And a few balancing skills to boot. Come here.
Do you ever forget and grab it with your hand?
Just once. That's all it takes. Yeah, common saying is you don't touch the hot egg too many times. And the other saying is nothing falls off the floor. Unless it's the second floor.
I'm the only one.
And there goes my biscuit. So, I used a flat-faced punch to knock a slug, and let's see if I can find it. Of course, I had to look away. I'll never find it now. But I really like showing off the biscuit. Where did it go? Did anyone see where it went? Alright, I thought it went off that way, but whatever. Anyway, I knocked a little slug out of the hole there. We'll get a couple more biscuits before the demo's over. No worries, because I just love biscuits. The food, particularly, but the metal part too. So that punch just displaces the metal out from underneath it. The metal's got nowhere to go but out to the sides of the punch until I end up with a little thin wafer of metal at the bottom of the hole. And I flip it over, and just like a paper punch, hole punch, I shear that little disc of thin metal out of the bottom of the hole, and it pops out the bottom, and I have a hole in my metal. Half of blacksmithing is figuring out how to hold things that you can't hold with your hands. And so I'm just going to scrub this up real good. Get all that fire scale off of there. Because no one wants crunchy iron work, right? Who wants crunchy iron work? Not me. Chewy maybe, not crunchy. And then I've got a little Knoxville beeswax here. It's just a hair warm, you know, it's a little too warm when it smokes. But I'm going to do it anyway. Because I'm impatient. So what this does is it creates a barrier to moisture to seal the metal so that it won't just rust. Because all steel will rust. Except for stainless steel. And even stainless steel will rust, but it's a lot more difficult to make it rust. So, you guys want to see a skull bottle opener?
Yes.
It's a fan favorite. Alright. So, I've got a coal fire here. I'm using an antique hand crank blower to force air through this tube, through this apparatus called the tweer. It's a really great French word. I don't know what it means. And into this cast iron fire pot that holds my burning coal. All I used to light the coal was a few pieces of newspaper, very meticulously crumpled in a specific manner. And so, if I keep cranking this blower, I could get that fire up to around 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. But at that point, my bar of steel is a sparking puddle. Not very useful to me. So I try to get it up to right around 2,000, which is a bright yellow heat. I don't use thermometers, I just have micrometers. And they read the temperature by the color of the steel. And that's how I know when the steel's hot enough to work and too cold to work. Once I get it up to that 2,000 degrees, it becomes very, very malleable. Like a piece of clay. I can do anything with a piece of steel that you could do with a piece of clay, provided I can get it hot and can find or make tools that will pinch it or squeeze it in the way that I want to form it. So I make a lot of my own tools, partly because nobody makes them, and partly because I'm a cheapskate. A little of both. So I'm gonna get a nice bright heat on this bar, and then I'm gonna start from the neck up. I'm gonna make the skeleton's neck bones. Well, actually, I lied.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna isolate the neck just a little bit in the jaw. So this is where his cheeks start. So I've just isolated some material, straighten that out a little. Now we're going to start pinching some vertebra. Hey Warren, see ya. I'm naturally loud, and then I wear these when I work because I do this every day, and so I get twice as loud then. So I'm not yelling at you, I promise. No hard feelings. So that's what happens when you burn your steel because you're running your gums instead of paying attention. That's okay, I caught it in time. No harm, no foul. One neck bone. Two neck bones. I like to put a little hole in the bottom vertebra so you can hang the puppy on your, not a puppy, he's a skull, what am I talking about? On your keychain or necklace or a nail or whatever. So I'm going to use another smaller punch. Actually, it's the same punch I used for the hook. See the color changing as the steel cools down. It goes from yellow to orange to red, and once it's red, it's becoming quite stiff. Ta-da! I got a hole. I saved the biscuit this time so I can show you guys why I call it a biscuit. Let me just cool it down. So this is the slug that comes out of the bottom of the hole, and if you look at it real carefully, and it's easier to see on bigger slugs, it's kind of riffled on the side and a little pillowed on the top, and looks just like a fresh hot biscuit out of the oven. I just love biscuits so much. So now I'm going to give him a little definition, isolate the chin and the teeth region and the upper lip, and give him some cheek structure. And them high model cheekbones that everybody likes in Vogue. So there's the bottom of his teeth. There's his upper lip. And right cheek, left cheek. I'm going to get out my chisel and give him some teeth. So I don't need to have him at a real high heat for this chiseling. You're all welcome to come closer. I promise I won't burn you. If you need to step back, I'll tell you to.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll give him a full set of teeth instead of just half. Sometimes I just give him half a set of teeth like their jaw fell off. But he deserves a full set of choppers. So you can see his lower jaw, his nice model-like cheekbones. He's really a runway skeleton. So we're gonna do some eye sockets, a little nose hole action, and then we're gonna punch his skull out. Make sure I have my tools in order. Put this out of the way.
Thank you.
You have to pardon me, it's getting a little warm. I'm just gonna remove a layer here for airflow. Okay. And give him a little, that's the wrong punch. Give him a little nasal cavity there. So there's his eye sockets and his nose socket.
Are you scared? No, I didn't know you were there. Oh, do you take
So
credit cards?
sorry?
Take credit
I
cards?
do.
I'll just write a number down and then you can pay a little bit higher.
Okay, it's fine. So he looks a little startled right now, you know. So we're gonna fix that. We're gonna punch a hole through his head, and depending on exactly where I put that punch, it's gonna make him go from looking like deer in the headlights to like kind of got some attitude to like if I get a little too close to the eyes, he's gonna look like really angry. So I try for the middle ground. We'll see how I do. A little warmer, a little warmer. That was only 1800 degrees. I want a full 2000. Fahrenheit. 2000 Celsius. Phew, I couldn't handle that. Too much. Now there's just a little thin piece of metal at the bottom of that hole. And I'm just gonna shear it right out of there. And there I just punched a hole right through his head. That was pretty mean of me, huh? We'll make him feel better about it in a minute. Or he's gonna look really angry, depending on, I don't think I got it too close to his eyeballs, so. So that biscuit is probably in the bottom of my shoe now, unless it went over there somewhere. An old blacksmith told me one time a little limerick from, you know, maybe 180 years ago when young children would run into the local blacksmith shop. Biscuits are the bane of barefooted boys. Because you don't want to run in and step on one. So now I'm going to use another tool I made called a drift. It's just a tapered punch on a handle, and I'm going to drive this into that hole, and it's going to stretch the diameter of that hole out so that until it's big enough that I can fit it on the horn of the anvil and start cleaning it up. There. just gonna do one more round from the other side, get that a little bit bigger. If I leave all that fire scale on the anvil, that stuff, when it's hot, is harder than the steel is when the steel is cold. So it'll actually impregnate the surface of the steel and leave a real crunchy, cratery texture, which occasionally I do on purpose because it can look cool, but generally I like my steel to just show the mark of the hammer on the anvil and be smooth. So that's why I brush a lot of time and why I clean my anvil off periodically. Alright, I want to get him off of this stick now so I can finish him out. So, boom, boom, boom. Just gonna squeeze that material off like a butter knife through Play-Doh. I have to know where my tongs are. That's an important step. Usually I just walk around 3 times until they show up.
They fell.
Those aren't the ones I want. Here they are. Maybe you were pointing at those, I don't know, I'm not. That safely out of the way. Warm his head back up. And now I'm just gonna round his head out on the horn of the anvil, which is this pointy end here. Anvil has anatomical names for its parts. So there's the face of the anvil. This is the body. These are the feet, obviously. This is the horn. These are the shoulders. This is the step. That's not very anatomical, but you know, can't win them all. And this is the heel. And then there's the hardy hole, which hardy tools go into. I have no idea why they called that. And the Pritchell hole, which is even more of a mysterious name, but that's where it's good to punch slugs out. Or biscuits, as I like to call them. Alright, I want to do the tongs.
Sweet.
I spend a lot of time walking around my anvil. Cubby. So there's this brain case all rounded out. I just need one more part. I need a little tab to catch the edge of the bottle cap to lift that cap off the bottle. And if all that other stuff didn't make his eyes look like he's angry, I'm about to make him look real angry. So the thing about a coal fire is it's always burning itself away. So you have to keep pushing coal back into the center of the fire to keep it fueled. Or it'll just hollow itself out until it won't heat anything anymore. Right between the eyes. He's not very angry. He still looks a little startled. That's okay. Sometimes skeletons just hanging out. Not bothering anyone. Give him a good scrub down so he doesn't have any crusty crust on him. Make sure he's gravity proof. Come here.
You make most of your tools?
I do, yeah. So anything that looks forged or has my stamp on the side of it is a tool I made for myself. Hey man, how's it going?
How are you?
So I'm just gonna let him cool down for a second on the anvil there. Get my wax out. He's gonna be a little hot for putting wax on, but I'm impatient, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Yep, when it smokes, you know it's way too hot. So I'm gonna set him aside and not worry about it, because he doesn't need to be waxed today. Alright, let's see, what else should we do? I could do a kitty cat
Okay. Yeah.
or a fork.
Fork.
Right. Well, now you guys just switch teams. What do you want? Kitty cat or a fork?
Kitty cat fork.
The kitty cat fork. Now that's an interesting
A
idea.
kitty fork.
I could do a kitty fork.
Kitty fork.
All right. Let's start with a fork and we'll see if some cat shows up during the process. So I've made multiple tine forks, 3 and 4 tine forks, but they just, I don't know. They're more work, it's more effort. 2 tines is a lot of fun and quick, and you can still eat with just 2 tines. You'd be surprised at how much food a 2 tine fork can hold. And you know, no one really made forks with more than 2 tines before the 18th century, so, unless maybe if you were really rich, like a king. So I actually start by just making 1 tine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. Alright, this metal's getting pretty cold. So I'll just warm back up. I'm just going to shape that up a little more. Make a real delicate little fork.
What's that gonna make?
A fork. A 2 tine, quasi-colonial style eating fork. But right now it's just got 1 tine, so I'm going to fix that. 2 times.
Magic.
You all are welcome to come a little closer if you want. I promise not to burn you. You're like, no, we're plenty close enough. But don't touch any of the tools. Some of them are hot. So, spread those tines apart. I made that neck so delicate, it's wanting to move.
Is this just your mobile forge, or is this?
Yeah. Oh no. No, I've got a proper shop with stationary coal and gas forges.
What's your jobs?
In Sparta?
There's somebody in Sparta that won Forged in Fire, I think, isn't it?
Yep, we share the shop.
Really?
He's my shopmate.
I'm good. I've been meaning to find out where you were.
He's not that interesting.
You're the interesting part, huh?
Well, he just does knives, which, you know, are cool and whatever, that's fine. I don't have patience for knives, so I do nearly everything else. So we have a really good compounding relationship that way.
You do, don't you?
Yeah, you're that.
Yeah. You work with the guy in Sparta? Is
Yeah,
cool.
Yep, Jay's my shopmate. We work out of his uncle's building.
That's neat.
Where? Can a person come by?
Yeah, we don't keep regular hours. I keep long hours, but I don't keep regular hours. So,
Open the door.
Don't blame
you
you
know,
for that at all.
you're certainly welcome to come by and knock or wander in and say hello, but there's no guarantee that someone's going to be there at noon or 8 in the morning or
Well, we wouldn't be there then. That's too early for us.
occasionally me too.
What's this gonna be that you're working on?
It's going to be a fork.
Really?
Chill.
Well, it will. When he's through.
It only had one time, just a few minutes.
Oh, it did?
It was amazing.
It's not going to grow a third time though.
That's it. Two's all you get.
Just 2 for this one. So I do a lot of larger projects and sculpture and architectural commission work, but I enjoy doing little stuff like this when I have the opportunity, just because it's good practice, it's good hand skill, and it's kind of, I don't always work on things that offer such instant gratification.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. That's one of the perks of doing demos like
What's
this.
the big difference between working on a charcoal forge and a propane?
Well, no, I don't use a charcoal forge because
You didn't?
because this is coal.
Just
So-
regular coal.
Coal, yeah. So this isn't burnt trees. This is really old trees.
This is dug up coal.
Yeah, yeah. But the difference is that you can't, unless you do it on purpose, you can't burn your steel in a propane forge because it just
It won't
set
get hot
to one.
enough.
Well, it will get hot enough, but you have to really put a lot of gas into most propane forges to get them that hot. Whereas coal forge, if I stand here for 2 seconds talking to you and not paying attention, I will burn the ends of those tines off the fork. So that's one difference. The other difference is, and you know, I use an electric blower on my coal forge at home, but I can't really set that and walk away for too long because it will burn my material.
Right.
Whereas the coal forge, I can load 20 pickets in my gas forge and walk away and come back when they're hot, and then they're hot as fast as I can work them. You know, so for production forging, propane's generally the way to go. It's just a lot more efficient. But I do most of my forge welding in the coal forge because it's just better suited to a lot of forge welding operations. Whereas in a propane forge, you can bring it up to forge welding heat, but everything inside the forge is at a forge welding heat. So you're burning up all your material instead of just the spot you're welding.
Okay, I get it.
So I burned that because I was talking, like I said I would.
Now, how did you know it was burnt?
Because it was sparkling and it's all crusty now.
It was shooting out sparks.
The fireworks usually is a good indicator.
Got it.
But I'll just salvage it as much as I can and move forward because it's just a fork.
That's right.
You'll have to buy it now, Grady.
What's that?
Grady, she'd have to buy it.
That's right, since that costs
Oh, I've got finished forks inside. You should buy them.
Oh, okay.
Notice that I'm just twisting this by hand because I'm not smart. Just kidding, I'm
Steal this. No problem.
It's a little fiddly sometimes.
So is there any point where you change hammers?
Occasionally, depending on what I'm doing. I made this hammer specifically like it is because I'm able to do most things I want to do with it. There's cross peen hammers, which is what you've probably seen the most of, where this surface is oriented perpendicular to the handle. Then there's a straight peen hammer where it's oriented. Well, heck, I don't want to have to use both hammers, so I made a bias peen, which is not my original idea. Others have done that.
It's very useful.
It's two hammers in one for most things. And then I use what's called a rounding hammer sometimes, which has a flat face and a slightly rounded face. And this is my big bumper. It's just 4 pounds for thumping on tools and other stuff that I need. And this is only 3.5 pounds, so this is my main forging hammer. And then I have a few smaller hammers that I use sometimes. And then I also use sledgehammers occasionally. Usually not by myself. Usually I trick one of my buddies or my forging fire friend to swing the sledgehammer and I hold the tool in. Alright, I'm not going to fool with those times anymore. They're not getting any better today. So I'll just make the handle. I'm afraid I'm taken. Sorry. I don't want to dash your hopes and dreams.
Thank you for clarifying that.
But you know, I am available for rental day rates. Everybody has a price. I was just having this discussion with a friend earlier today who wants me to make him a bottle tree, which is not exactly something I necessarily am that enthused about making for someone. I said to him, isn't there a flea market you can buy that at? He says, no, I want one with your flair to it. And then he told me what he wanted to spend, and I said, isn't there a flea market you can buy one at? And then he said, well, I'd give you more. And I went, well, we'll talk then.
Let's talk.
Everybody has a price.
Keep talking. Sure.
Just get that scrum off of there real quick. Oops, a little too rugged. Don't film that.
Too late.
Oh, what?
Is this gonna be
Do the
on
hammer
Jay
side of
Leno
things.
or something?
Pardon?
Is he making this for Jay Leno or something?
Yeah, Jay Leno. That's who he was for.
Yeah, how'd you know?
I'm not allowed to be filmed.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.